Okay. Great. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Jackie M, and I do these live streams on Twitch 3 times a week. If you're watching this anywhere except Twitch, I don't monitor the chat, the comments, except over on Twitch. So hop over there if you're watching it live. And even if you're not watching live, if you're watching a replay on YouTube or something like that, hop over to Twitch and follow me there anyway. The URL... That's my son Noah, if you can hear him. The short URL for my Twitch channel is just jackiem.live, and yeah, just hit follow and turn on notifications so you know next time I am live, so that you can engage with me in the chat, right? Anyway, today I thought, you know, I really just came home about 15 minutes ago, and I had to think hard what I was going to do for this particular session, because I've just been off my feet all day. I just came back actually from a Bon Maman event. Bon Maman is basically a brand of these really nice jams, and they had an event that I got invited to. It's a Mother's Day event, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. You see the hashtag help Wyatt. I'm going to talk about that a little bit some more as I'm doing my cooking. And also, just to forewarn you, you heard Noah screaming in the background. This is my Wednesday broadcast, so I do have Noah with me, and he can be a little bit disruptive, so you just got to put up with it a little bit. And also, before I go on, quick shout out to Lenovo Australia for the laptop I use for my live stream, which is a Lenovo Y700 gaming laptop, and also the Rode microphone is what I use for my microphone. I hope the microphone is working okay. It's quite funny. Anyway, I had some issues the other day with my configuration on the software I'm using. Not a microphone problem, but just on the settings with my broadcaster software that caused people to be hearing noises from one of my other PCs. So I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, so today I thought what I might do is actually show you guys how I use these things called rice sticks, okay? This is what they look like. Okay, literally this is labeled rice sticks. Depending on the brand, it can be labeled as vermicelli, okay? But essentially what they are just what I grew up knowing as vermicelli or rice noodles, okay? It's just this particular brand calls it rice sticks, but you should be able to find this quite easily at Asian grocery stores. Any kind of Asian grocery stores. I think this is a pretty universal product, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. But I want to show you a few different ways you can use this, okay? How you can prepare it and then cook it up. And some of the ingredients I'm going to be using in this broadcast are actually a carryover from my last broadcast where I made Hainanese chicken rice. So I've got some, if you watch my last broadcast, you know that I had like this pot of water that I used to boil the chicken in, and subsequently I added some chicken bones to it and boiled it up to make chicken stock. Okay, so I've got a big pot of stock that I'm trying to use up. So a couple of the recipes, we'll use some of that. And also, just let me turn this on. I'm going to add some oil to this. So this is just a heavy base wok over here. And I'll just move a couple of things out of the way. And like I said, because I do have Noah here, I do need to... Thanks for the garlic, baby. I do need to move things a little bit out of his way, which means that things that I usually would have spread out away from this camera might actually be cluttered in here, okay, just to make sure he doesn't end up tipping it over or touching a hot stove or something like that. So just bear with me here. Okay, so I'm just heating up this wok. I'm gonna add some oil to this. And I want enough oil to, that's probably enough here, to fry up some of the noodles. And I'll show you what I do with the noodles as well, because depending on how you prepare the noodles, the fried noodles will turn out differently, okay? And have a pair of scissors here. Cut it open. Okay, so in case you're not familiar with these rice noodles, this is what they look like. Noah, gentle, please. You want to go sit down? You want to go sit down? This is Noah. For those of you who don't know him, he's my nearly 5-year-old toddler because he's got Down syndrome and he's had a really tough start to life. So he's delayed even within the context of someone with a Down syndrome diagnosis. So mentally he's about 12 to 18 months old, okay, which is why he's trying to get my attention. No, you go sit down here. I'm just gonna go and grab some hot water, right? And while I'm doing that, I might take the opportunity. What type of oil? What type of oil? This is just regular vegetable oil, right? In Malaysia, we actually use palm oil quite a lot because Malaysia is one of the top palm oil producers in the world. But there are actually a couple of different types of palm oil. There's healthy palm oil, what we call palm fruit oil, and well, you know, other palm oil. There's palm oil that you use to, you know, in industrial manufacturing, and that's not the oil that's used in palm fruit oil, okay? So there are certain types of palm oil that are not just healthy but also environmentally sustainable. So not all palm oil plantations were grown at the cost of orangutan habitats, because in fact in Malaysia, in the peninsula of Malaysia, we don't actually have orangutans, okay? People tend to confuse Malaysia with Indonesia a lot. Indonesia is where they raise a lot of ground. Well, Malaysia does too, but there are no orangutans there, okay? In the peninsula anyway. Yeah, so let me just try something here. I'm gonna bring up the dashboard. Look, I won't try that now, but I'm just gonna go and, no, we come at mama, we're gonna go and get something. Yeah, good boy, here we go. Good boy, yay, good boy. I think that's what I wanted. Right, so these are the kind of noodles, okay? I'm going to take some out and soak them in hot water. Usually just hot tap water will do, but I'm going to speed it up a bit, so I'm just going to pour some water from the kettle into it. Noe, you want to go sit down? Hey, you want to go sit down? Hey, you want to play with this? Play with this? Yeah. Piece of cloth. Okay, so these come in cakes, okay? So different brands of rice sticks will have them packed different ways, but this particular brand has them packed in basically cakes, and there's like 3 cakes to a bag. And this one here will be enough for more than one person, probably 1.5 serves or so. Okay, so we're going to soak this for a bit. Let's just move this up the back. And this is heating up. The other thing I want to do, right, this is something I haven't done in 20-30 years, but let's give this a shot. But what it is, like, if you go to Chinese restaurants, sometimes you have like a stir-fry dish that might sit on a nest of like these crinkly white kind of like rice puffs, okay? They're actually made from rice noodles. So the way you would make those is you would fry dried rice noodles straight in the hot oil, okay? We'll just see if the oil is hot enough. I'm kind of like, if you know my cooking, I do a lot of things by guesstimating. Okay, so usually they'll tell you to test if the oil is hot enough, drop a little bit here and then see what happens. So if it floats up, it's hot enough, okay? So you see it just kind of like pop up. Okay, so they're kind of like rice bubbles, but with noodles, okay? So these, when you fry up the rice noodles like this, you can then use it in cooking, okay? You can cook up a rice dish with it. So you're going to have like a really light and crunchy rice noodle that you can cook like some sauce and pour over it, okay? you can use it, you know, to line like a platter that you then, you know, kind of like maybe have some, like say like a fried vegetable dish, you know, with the sauce kind of like, and the sauce kind of like gets absorbed in there as well. So different ways you can use this. So let's just fry up some of this. And I don't want to do up too big. I don't know if there's a way I can break this up without making a big mess here. Noah, say hello. Say hello. Hey, say hello. Okay, so I've got half a cake here. Let's throw it in. Okay, so you see how it just popped up. Turn it around and fry it up some more. And usually, you know it's done frying when it stops bubbling, okay? I don't quite have enough oil in here for it to kind of like expand as much as I would like it to. But you kind of get the idea, right? So that's one way you can use these rice vermicelli. And look, in Australia, to buy a pack of these cost about $1.20 or so sort of thing, which is about American, about 80 cents. I don't know how much it costs in the USA. But these kinds of noodles are very universal. So I always tell people when you're shopping Asian ingredients, let me just find a big thing for this. I always tell people when you're shopping Asian ingredients, right, don't assume all Asian grocery stores are the same. It really depends on who's running the store, okay? If it's a Korean guy, right, he may stock it with a lot of products for Korean cooking or Japanese cooking. And you know, I get pretty lost in the Korean grocery store, okay? So we Asians are not like one homogeneous group, okay? There's a lot of different varieties. But having said that, these kinds of noodles are pretty universal, so you should be able to find these quite easily anywhere, okay? So let's take that out. Now we're going to tackle the noodles that have been soaked in water. Let's see how they're going. Let's take this out. And if you're wondering who Wyatt is, I don't know if Cyan is online. Cyan's my moderator. I just asked her to do something for me just a little bit ago. Here we go. Okay. Okay, cool. You want to find out about Wyatt's story? I've never met Wyatt, but I'm just trying to help do my bit to raise awareness for his condition. This is my connection to Wyatt is through Noah, my son, who was very sick for 7 months in hospital. Okay, you see these noodles? Right, so they've been soaking for a couple of minutes and they're completely soft, and I want to take them out of the water. I'm just going to turn off the heat. I don't want it to get too hot. You want to drain this completely, okay? So I'm going to get a sieve, so I'll be back. Okay, so my connection with Wyatt, right, is basically, let me tip this in. My connection with Wyatt is basically through Noah, because when Noah was born, he was very sick in hospital. He had a whole host of issues, and he had quite a few surgeries, right? But one condition that came closest to threatening his life was something called hydrops fatalis. Noe, you want to say hello? Come, you want to say hello? Well, something called hydrops fatalis, which most doctors don't even know about, let alone know how to treat. Okay, there's no fixed cure for hydrops. Long story short, Noah survived hydrops, but since then I've been a member of a support group for parents of kids with hydrops on Facebook, and I came across Wyatt's story just 2 days ago, and I ended up blogging about it. So if you want to go, short URL, Noah, short URL is bit.ly/help Wyatt, but lowercase. Okay, so bit.ly/HELPWYATT YATT, all lowercase, okay? Because Bitly is case sensitive. I just didn't want to get people to spell it wrong. Okay, so these noodles are drained. Okay, and technically I don't need that much oil. Okay, I should probably take half the oil out. No, you want to come with Mama? You want to come with Mama? Come, let's go into the kitchen. Yeah, good boy. How about you sit over here? Yeah, good boy. Okay, so now what I want to do is not deep fry the noodles. This next set of noodles, I'm just going to like pan fry, okay? So usually just, when my mom does this, she uses like probably 3-4 tablespoons of oil, okay? So I've got that much there. Let's see how we go with this. And if you've got any questions, don't forget to hit me up. And thanks everyone for joining me, by the way. And if you know anyone who's interested in Asian cooking, especially Southeast Asian, Southeast Asia basically means Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Burma, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, those sort of places, those are Southeast Asia, okay? If you know anyone interested in that, ask them to follow me on Twitch, which is just JackieM.live. Okay, so let's do this. These are like noodles that were soaked in hot water for a few minutes and now drained. Eight. Okay, so we're gonna fry this up. In all honesty, this is something my mom does a lot. It's not something that I do a lot because it's not kind of like for the kind. I'm just gonna cook half of it and then cook some more. Okay, because I wanna. The way this should come out is that it should come out sort of like semi-caked up, okay, and crusty, but not entirely so, and also a little bit brown, okay. Just move this. I don't know if you can see the back. If you've been following my broadcast, you know I always have a lot of stuff up the back here as far as kitchen appliances. Okay, and I got a few more this week as well. It's just completely crazy. Not that I'm complaining, but I need a bigger bench essentially to be able to fit them all on. They're now actually sitting at an angle, like a diagonal, kind of like at a 45-degree angle, some of them, just so I can actually fit them on the bench. Okay, so this is frying up. So remember, if the noodles are dry and you fry them, this is how they turn out, okay? Like really light, kind of like rice bubble type puffy strings, okay? Noe? You hungry? You want to eat? Yeah, you want to eat. Okay, so the way my mom would usually do this is, like I say, first of all, she'll use less oil. But second of all, she would make like little portions like this and fry them up. So you're gonna have like a few different cakes, okay, of noodles. So you wanna go sit down? You wanna go sit down? Here you go. You wanna go sit? You wanna go sit? Yeah, sit. That's right. Good boy. And the other, just give me a second. Noah, stop it. What do you want to do? You want to eat? Okay, you're going to sit over here. You're going to sit over here and eat, okay? I'm going to feed bits of chicken to him. Hopefully they'll settle him a little bit. Good boy, yeah. Good boy. Okay. Here we go. I can't see the chat because I'm trying to keep an eye on Noah, making sure he doesn't torch me. Are you Asian? If so, where do you originate from? I originate from Malaysia. I originated from Malaysia. Yep. I'm from Malaysia. I came to Australia when I was 17. So you see, basically what you want to do is kind of like fry this till it's like a golden in color, and then flip it over. It's going to crust up, but you don't want it completely like crunchy, okay? You want it still a little bit soft. Just let me flip this over. And don't forget to follow me if you don't already follow me here, and let other people know. I don't know if I've got my broadcaster software configured incorrectly, but of late I haven't been able to see the follows. Even though after my session I see that a bunch of people followed me, so I'm sorry if I don't give you any shout outs about it. But let me move this away. And yes, I'm Asian, and I am ethnically I am Chinese. Okay, Malaysia is I know it sounds cliche. Malaysia is like a multicultural country, but Malaysia is like the true, like, you know, I don't know if you've heard of the Malaysian tourism slogan, Malaysia truly Asia. Malaysia really is truly Asia, because when you think Asia, you think maybe India, China, Indonesia. Malaysia has all those elements in the one country, essentially, okay? Because Malaysia is a country of like people from different ethnicities, but primarily the Malays, the Chinese. I'm going to soak more noodles in here, because I'm going to use it for another dish that I want to show you guys. Okay, I might as well just soak the whole lot here. I'm going to add more hot water to this. No, you want to come over here? You want to come over here? I really have to rethink my Wednesday broadcast, because it's the one weekday that Noah is at home here with me, and he's very, very disruptive. That, or I have to coerce my neighbor to help out with him a little bit. No, we want to play with this. Want to play with this? Yeah! So, yeah, I want to fry this up till it's crispy. On one side at least anyway, okay? And you can brown it a little as well. What are you cooking? I'm basically showing you guys what you can do with what we call rice sticks, or rice, you know, dried rice noodles, or also sometimes known as vermicelli. So I've got a number of different dishes planned. Just so you can have some ideas about what to do with these noodles next time you go shopping, okay? The whole idea with this is to kind of like get people comfortable with Asian ingredients. So this is frying up, and I'm going to use some garlic in some of these dishes. I'm going to basically make one noodle dish with soup, with the broth, right? Another with a runny gravy, two with runny gravy, okay? And then I'll show you a fourth one that uses a sauce. Okay, so this is fried up, but they all basically use these noodles as the base, okay? Because I tend to find that even after all these years, that I get people actually literally text me, if you live in Australia, because everyone here has my contact details. I get people text me from the grocery store asking me, oh, is this the right type of noodles I should be getting for this dish and whatever. So I kind of think that, you know, maybe this is these kinds of sessions are helpful for you guys to see. Noah, stop. Stop. What's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter? No. What's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter? Hey? You gonna stop this? Hey? You want a drink? You want a drink? Let me get your bottle. Where's your bottle? Where's your bottle? Hey? Where's your drink? Come. Oh, there's your drink. There's your drink over here, baby. Over here. Okay, he's decided he wants to eat some bread, so I might have to feed him some bread. So I'm going to get rid of some of this oil, right? And I'm going to mince some garlic. I kind of feel like I'm the only person who do these Twitch broadcasts who talks through everything I do, because I'm so used to doing live cooking demonstrations and doing and teaching people how to cook in cooking class settings. I'm just going to wipe up some of this water that Noah kind of like tipped. Hang on. Okay, Noah, you want to go sit down? Okay, so garlic, you know, when you're doing stir fries, I almost always like to use fresh garlic. Okay, I'd never buy those garlic, pre-minced garlic in a jar, but get yourself some fresh garlic. These are peeled fresh garlic, and I can buy them here in Australia in bags, like 1 kilo bags. Okay, that's about 2.2 pounds. And they're just a massive time saver. And if you don't use it all at once, you can actually freeze it. Garlic does in fact freeze. I mean, the color changes, but it you know, flavor is fine. But yeah, where you can, use fresh garlic. And then what I'm going to do, I'll just put this in here. I'm just going to mince it in here, and you can actually do a batch and then, like, you know, freeze or keep some in the fridge. Okay, so you can mince up garlic, throw it in a tub, and keep it in the fridge. Now, you want to come to Mama? Come hold Mama's hand. You want to hold Mama's hand? So I'm just using what's called a thermocook. It's essentially like a multi-function kitchen device that performs as a blender, as a food processor, as a steamer, and also it also sautés and cooks stuff for you as well. Right, I'm just using the food processing function here just to mince the garlic. So the other ingredient I'm going to use is, remember my stock, my chicken stock from a couple of days ago from my last broadcast. And it might gross some people out, but I haven't refrigerated the chicken stock. And we Asians, the way we handle like food preservation, okay, we don't know. When it comes to soups and that sort of stuff, because we, you know, we drink like clear broth, right? The way we keep the soup is by bringing it to a boil on the stove once a day, and that will make sure that it doesn't go off. Okay, I mean, eventually I will freeze it or stick it in the fridge, but it's just that there was such a big pot of it that, you know, I really didn't have the fridge space. But here's the chicken stock from my Hainanese chicken rice broadcast a couple of days ago. Okay, so I brought it to a boil 2 days in a row. This is what it looks really cloudy now. Let me just move it so you can see it. It looks really cloudy now because of the bones and like me just boiling the heck out of it. But usually if you were using this for Hainanese chicken rice, you would want it quite clear, okay? So it just, yeah, there's a technique to this. But I mean, I had it clear the first day, but thereafter, because I wasn't eating chicken rice anymore, I just boiled it till it's all cloudy. But it's fine, it's not off or anything like that. You will note the stock is off when you start to see bubbles forming on the surface, okay? And I'm just going to bring this forward. So first up, Okay, remember these noodles? Okay, we're gonna use these later on. So these have just been like soaked in hot water still. And I'm just gonna move them out of the way. So I'm going to make what we call, I'm going to make two different sauces for these two different types of noodles that I've got so far. I'm going to make one that's like a runny egg sauce and the other one which is just a runny sauce. Okay, we'll go with the runny sauce first. And I'm going to use some chicken stock as the base. You can just use water if you want. Okay, if I don't have chicken stock, I just use water generally. It's just up, like I said, I'm just trying to use this up. I'm gonna add some Chinese greens to it, and there are a couple of different Chinese greens here, and even the Asian. It's quite funny. I had a broadcast with another Asian girl a while back, and she said she never really knew what kind of Chinese greens to buy. Okay, but this is one of the most popular. It goes yellow really fast, so I'm just going to show you in all its imperfection. Okay, so this is yellowed, and you want to throw out the yellowed leaves. But this is what we call choy sum, okay, or mustard greens. Okay, so all the yellow leaves we throw out. I think I bought this about 3-4 days ago, and I forgot to eat it, and I want to use it up. So this is suitable for stir fries. It's also suitable for soups. So we're going to use this. It'll be perfect for what we're doing tonight. And this is what it looks like. I'm just going to cut it up, so I'll show you how I do that as well. Okay, so with these, you'll see that the stem is quite thick over here, right? And the way we used to do this traditionally in Malaysia, what my mom used to teach me how to do was you pluck the leaves off the stem, okay? And then you're left with that. And then you wash this underwater. And then usually in Malaysia, I don't find it so much the case over here, maybe because farming methods are different or the variety is different or something like that. So you're going to tear these off. But usually in Malaysia, she would then get me to peel off some of the outer skin on the stem. Okay, otherwise it's too fibrous to eat. Okay, so sometimes it can be. So if you think it's going to be quite a fibrous batch of vegetables, go and cut it up. Go and stick a knife through it and just try and peel off a few layers of the fibers. Okay, and Oranya, good to have you. Okay, so there you go. I'm gonna cut it up. You can barely see this, I know, but everything is really crowded because I'm worried about Noah. Let me move these out of the way. Okay. So this is a little bit wilted, so I'm just cutting on some stuff here. But generally, you would just basically cut these into like 2 or 3 inch lengths, okay? And like I say, you know, if this is too thick or too fibrous, you can just kind of like get the knife and peel, grab some of that and then peel it down, okay? Okay, just to kind of like tenderize the stem, okay? And you see the stem actually, if you can see it, is actually a little bit yellowed in the middle, so I'm not even going to use that. And that's generally what happens with Chinese greens. They don't, you know, they're not going to keep for 2 weeks in your fridge. You generally have to use it up within a couple of days of buying it. And if it's too thick, you can also just kind of like cut it in half down the middle like this, okay? So these are 2 halves. Let's do this as well. And the other Chinese greens I've got, these are what we call kailan or Chinese broccoli, okay? They look almost like kale, and I'm pretty sure they're from the same family though. You know, someone might dispute that. And same kind of deal. And usually the kailan, the stem tends to be even tougher, so sometimes we'll cut them diagonally across, okay, into thin diagonal slices. So again, with the kailan, we use it a lot in stir fries, and also in, what do we use kailan? I like it in pretty much everything. It's one of my favorite vegetables, to be honest. And the other thing I'm going to point out when you're cooking Chinese greens as well, first of all, they cook very fast, but second of all, the stem does take a little bit longer because it's tougher and it's thicker, okay? So you generally would be advised, I mean, if you're in a hurry, you forget about it or you don't bother, but generally you're advised to throw in the stems first, cook it up for a few seconds before you throw in the leaves, okay? But in any case, they do cook pretty fast, so don't simmer them for 30 minutes, okay? Because you're going to kill them. Move this out of the way. Okay, so let's do this. First one, like I say, I'm going to use some chicken stock in this. I'm going to saute some garlic first. Let me think. I need gloves. I can't believe I haven't put on a pair of gloves up to this point. Oh, these are my last pair too. But I'll just put one on. I'm slowly falling asleep to your voice, long day, but I am trying to watch. It is gonna be like 4 o'clock in the morning in North America. I'm just amazed at you guys. Okay, so this is heating up. When you're sauteing, doing any stir fry, you want to kind of like, you know, it's a little bit of a fine line between like having the oil too hot and not hot enough, okay? You want the garlic to sizzle like this. You can hear it lightly sizzling. And I use a fair bit of garlic. Okay, so first dish I'm going to make is just a regular sauce, a noodle with sauce, okay? And if you want to add seafood or you want to add fish cake slices, you want to add chicken, even beef or whatever, you would do it now, okay? But I don't have much of that. So I do have some chicken, but it's kind of like leftover chicken from my Hainanese chicken rice. So I'm not going to bother, right? But you get the idea. So if you've got prawns or something like that, toss them in now and fry it up. And you want to just lightly saute this till the garlic is just slightly brown, okay? And just bring out the flavor, and remember the heat of the stove. People always say, oh, how long do you cook it for? Till it's, you know, till it's slightly brown kind of thing, but not, you know, don't burn it, okay? So if you've got a hotter stove or something like that, don't cook, just keep that in mind. Okay. So this is really brown, and you can add in the sauces now, but I'm going to add the soup in now. And the reason I'm adding the soup in is because as I'm talking, I realize that the onion, the garlic is getting a little bit too brown for my liking. Okay, so I want to bring the temperature back down. And now you can add in the kind of sauces that would usually go into making a noodle sauce base, okay? And you can play around with this, but the sauces I like to use for this are... No, you want to come to mama? Come to mama, baby. Good boy. Here we go. Good boy. Yeah. Over here. Yeah, good boy. Now sit down. Good boy. Okay, so these are a few things that I can put into. You don't have to have all of them, you know, you can mix and match a little bit. If you want this to be quite, I guess, quite subtle, right? You can just add a little bit of seasoning to it, okay? As far as seasoning, you know me, if you've watched enough of my cooking, you know I like to use chicken stock powder, okay? This is like stock cubes, but crushed stock cubes. We Asians, if you go shopping in an Asian grocery store, I mean, the one that I go to, you've got like a couple of shelf-fulls of these different brands of chicken powder and different iterations of them as well. Some are like Supreme chicken powder or Hong Kong style chicken powder or whatever, but they generally do the same thing, and they're kind of like a flavor enhancer, flavor boost for your dish, okay? We Asians aren't averse to using this in our cooking, so you can just add that to that, and a bit of white pepper. Okay, as far as flavoring, And that's all you need, okay? If you want to be a little bit fancy, you can add a little bit of oyster sauce to this. So I'm going to add a little bit of oyster sauce. That just gives a little bit of depth of flavor to this, okay? So as far as oyster sauce, I bought this brand because it was on sale, in all honesty. It says extra oyster sauce, and when I had a look, I mean, a lot of these ingredients, right? If you want to be really authentic, buy the ones that are manufactured in Hong Kong and that sort of stuff. Okay, so I'm just putting like about a teaspoon of this in there, just mixing it up. Okay, but because they're made in Asian countries, the name, you know, the naming conventions can be a little bit like, can sound a little bit stilted. Just have a read at the ingredients list to see what they actually mean by extra oyster sauce. And from memory, I don't have my glasses on. No, from memory, the extra oyster sauce meant that it had like more oyster content in it. Okay, so the oyster sauce is not just pure oysters. It's got a whole bunch of other stuff in it as well. It's like, you know, it's got a bit of sugar, and different brands of oyster sauce will have different levels of sweetness as well. So it's got a bit of like, you know, obviously salt and all that. So they vary. So this has oyster sauce, chicken powder. It's got pepper in it, and now I want to thicken it up. Okay, no, before that I want to throw in the vegetables. Okay, so you can just visualize that this has actually got some, throw in some greens, and do as I say, not as I do, because ideally you would want to throw the stems in first. Okay, I'm going to throw a bit more soup in here. And you want to simmer this till the vegetables are nearly done. Okay. And now you want to thicken up the sauce, and the way you thicken up the sauce always is you can use either potato starch, okay, that's the cheapest option, and it also works probably the best, or tapioca starch, or you can use cornstarch, okay. If you use cornstarch, what you might find is when this dish goes cold, when the sauce goes cold, the thickness, the starchiness gets lost, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind. But essentially they do the same thing. They help to thicken up your sauce or your gravy, okay? Let me get my starch. So as part of your Chinese or Asian pantry, you would want some, you know, oyster sauce, fish sauce. You can put a dash of fish sauce in here too if you want. We can adjust the flavor before we dish this up and just figure out what it needs. Okay, so this is just about half a teaspoon of, or you can put a teaspoon of cornstarch, mix it with a bit of water. Okay, till it's like a slurry, and then you throw it in. And you see this thicken up right away. Okay, and just let me taste test this quickly. Okay, so it's very, very flavoursome, but it could probably use a dash of fish sauce. So even if you were cooking like seafood or beef or whatever, the chicken stock powder will work well with this, okay? And the chicken stock as well, okay? But like I say, if you don't have chicken stock, just use water, and the sauce also will give it the flavor. I'm really just trying to use up the chicken stock here. So you see this thickened up. Let me just grab the noodles. And these are the noodles that were fried from a dry state, okay? So straight out of the packet, thrown into deep frying oil, and then it puffs up like this. Let me just dish this up. Okay. So you've got the noodles here. It's very white. The fluorescent lighting doesn't help as well. And once you pour this over, Okay, it just soaks through the noodles and just soften them up. Okay, so that's one way to do your noodles. Now, next way, we're gonna cook up these noodles here. These have been basically like soaked noodles, soaked in hot water and then strained, and then they're pan fried with a bit of oil. Okay, so that's why they're kind of like noodle cakes. They're semi crusty, and by crusty I mean that they're harder. Okay, they're more sturdy. They're not like the light crispy texture that you get from deep frying the noodles from scratch. Okay, so these are quite chewy, and that's the texture you want to achieve. So let's use the same wok here. Again, we're going to put a bit more oil in here. And garlic again. And again, you want to just kind of like lightly fry it till it's slightly brown, okay? And again, if you're using meat and other stuff in this, you would add them in now and mix them through. You've got chicken bits, you've got like seafood or something like that. Throw them in now and fry it up. And if you want a little bit of like a more gingery flavor, you can add slices of ginger in now as well, right? So these are all the different ways you can play around with the flavors. And I'm going to, okay, so now, because I haven't actually killed the garlic yet, I can actually put in the oyster sauce now. Okay, so it's up to you when you want to put it in, okay? So don't stress out too much. Put in the oyster sauce. It will spit a little bit. And put in some stuff. Again, if you've only got water, just add water at this stage. Pepper. Bit of chicken powder. So we're not using huge amounts of anything. It's just like a pinch of this, you know, half a teaspoon of that and all that. Some ginger would be great. Yeah, I think so too. I kind of thought about it and I don't know, I don't want to run back into my kitchen. Pinch of sugar if you want, okay? We usually, sometimes, okay, with Malaysian cooking, we balance out the flavors with a hint of sugar. It's not to make the dish taste outright sweet, but it's just to kind of like cut through and give a little bit of body, a rounded flavor to your dish, okay? I know with Thai cooking, some of their curries can taste outright sweet, okay? I've been to Chiang Mai and cooked with the chefs at the Shangri-La in Chiang Mai, Shangri-La Hotel in Chiang Mai. And some of the things they made I thought tasted really unusual because to my palate they tasted too sweet. But the Thais do like a lot of sugar in some of their savory dishes, right? I mean, it tasted nice, but it just like took a little bit of a adjustment to get used to it. Okay, I'm gonna throw in some greens now. Again, stems in first. So if you're just joining me now, don't forget, go and check out the URL is bit.ly/helpwyatt, okay? All lowercase, HELPWYATT, Help Wyatt. That will take you to my blog post that I actually just published just before I went live on air. Go and read up about Wyatt, who he is, why he needs our help, and I really hope you guys can come up with it. This is my first time actually trying to pitch for something on Twitch, right? Because I have a small mailing list. And they usually are the most responsive to any kind of like stuff that I put out, like if I've got a promotion or something like that. It's always my mailing list, you know, whereas Twitch is my first time. Twitter is usually pretty good as well. So Twitch community, if you want to show what you guys are made of, go and check it out and see if you're prepared to just help out Wyatt, okay? And my latest update I heard from Wyatt's parents was that, first of all, basically Wyatt is really, really sick. He's a few months old, and the parents have been traveling every month to take him for medical tests because the doctors don't know what's wrong with him. The health insurance doesn't cover their expenses. So their last trip last month, they had to sell off their wedding rings to be able to cover the cost of the trip. And this month, they're actually organizing a yard sale, right? They're literally just kind of like selling stuff off. I mean, here in Australia, it's very, very unusual to hear people, you know, that desperate, okay? It's not like we don't have poverty in Australia, but, you know, I had a very sick kid as well. Like I said, he spent 7 months in the ICU. So I know what it's like to be living with that kind of uncertainty, which is why I felt inclined to help him out. But yeah, they're having a yard sale to be able to get enough money to be able to pay for the gas and for the hotel accommodation for his next trip to the specialist. So it's pretty dire. They are not, you know, you get some people who are very social media savvy. They've got a blog, they've got pretty Facebook page and all that. Wyatt's parents are nothing like that, okay? Which is why I feel inclined to help them out as well, you know, so help them if you can, okay? So this is simmering. I've got all the seasoning in there, and now I want to thicken it up again. So a bit of water. And again, tapioca starch, right? So just mix the two up. And just swivel it around. This is not as thick as the last batch for whatever reason. I'm running out of gas on here, so I'm just going to switch this out. Thank God no one's left me alone for the moment. Okay, so just visualize the prawns and the chicken and the beef and whatever else. If you eat pork, the pork. I don't eat pork, so I don't like to visualize pork in anything. I don't eat pork because I don't like it, not because I'm a Muslim. I'm not. I'm a born-again Christian. But yeah, it's quite funny because I had a cousin. I hope she's not watching this. I had a cousin just come over to Australia for a visit. I'm gonna thicken this some more because it's not quite thick enough. I used probably a little bit more stock in this than before. Yeah, she came over for a visit a couple of weeks ago from Malaysia, and she brought me these cookbooks because she knew I like cooking, and 80% of the recipes were pork recipes. And we're not just talking about like pork mince, which I could, you know, replace with chicken mince or something. We're talking about like pig's trotters, very, very traditional Chinese cooking, you know, pig's trotters and belly pork and all that, this kind of stuff that basically make me gag. So I gave the cookbooks back to my mom. Okay, so I'm just adding more cornstarch in here, thicken it up some more. Okay, now what I want to do, okay, is I want to simmer the noodles in here. So I'm tossing the noodles back in here and just kind of like simmering it through, okay? Hello, what are you cooking? I love cooking. I am cooking noodles, okay? So I'm using these rice noodles. I can't show you now because I've used it all up, but this is what the bag looked like. Okay, this is it says rice stick, okay, and they come in different brands, but they are so common. They're like one of the most common Chinese noodles you can find, okay. So go to your Asian grocery store, look on the shelves, and you should be able to find something like this or similar. Don't get them confused with mung bean threads, which look like these, but they're actually like once they're very, very slippery. Okay, mung bean threads are different to rice sticks. You will struggle to do all these with mung bean thread. Okay, so you want to simmer this. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna crack an egg into this. Okay, give me a second. Okay. So these are all the different ways you can slice and dice these noodles. So I've got actually 2 ways. I'm going to turn off the heat here. So before you crack the eggs, you want to turn off the heat and then crack the raw egg in. I don't know if I should use 1 or 2 eggs. Let's see how we go. I think 1 might be enough. So I'm just going to gently fold it in. Okay. And this gives me what's called a slippery egg sauce with these noodles. And let's dish this up. It doesn't look the most attractive. Trust me, it tastes really good, okay? And by the way, the original batch that I made of these crispy noodles, if you are buying this from the restaurant, they will pack the noodles in a separate bag to the sauce, okay? Because what's going to happen if they pack them together is that the noodles are just going to completely like just turn into mush by the time you take it home and open it up to eat. The other thing about rice vermicelli is that they absorb a lot of water. So let me, actually, you know what, I might just use this saucepan again. Just imagine this is clean, okay? So I'm going to make a soup for this. And this time you really ideally would want some ginger in the soup. I'm just going to add some, this is just chicken stock. It's got no seasoning in it so far. So let me just cut up some ginger. I just realized I've got some ginger sitting over here, which is why I thought, let's throw it in. Okay. So ideally you want to simmer the ginger here for a little bit. And if you want to be fancy, right, you can add fish to this. You can add fish bones to turn it into a more fishy stock. In which case, what would go really well with this broth would be some evaporated milk, right? Growing up in Malaysia, we didn't drink fresh milk, not in my day anyway, because you couldn't get fresh milk. But we drank a lot of condensed milk, which is the sweetened, caramelized kind of like milk that we use that in coffee and tea and all that. So if you go to Malaysia and you ask for coffee, it usually comes with condensed milk. Right, and also we use evaporated milk. Evaporated milk is kind of like, it's like thickened, slightly thickened milk, but it's not sweetened. Okay, I've seen, if you guys watch Buffy the Empire Slayer, which I used to, there was an episode where they were making something and they instead of asking for evaporated milk, they asked for condensed milk. I was thinking, no, condensed milk and evaporated milk are different. Okay, evaporated milk is not sweetened. Condensed milk is. Okay, so you want to like basically simmer to bring out the flavor of the ginger. Let me move this. And no garlic in this, okay? You can if you want, and the other thing you can do with garlic, the minced garlic, is fry it up, crisp it up, and that will give you a garlic oil that you can drizzle over the top of all these, right? But what I do want is pepper, again. So with a lot of Asian soups and that sort of stuff, even if it's a non-chicken soup, like say if you were making a fish soup, you know, or a prawn noodle soup or something, usually the base stock is still made out of chicken bones, okay? Or to be fair, more traditionally pork bones, but because I don't eat pork, I use chicken. Okay, so I'm just putting some chicken powder in here just to season it. And generally that's really all you need. And ideally, if you were cooking I tend to like to cook the greens in a separate hot saucepan with hot water, okay? But because we're only doing one lot here, I'm just going to throw it in now. I don't know if you can hear the Teletubbies in the background. That's like his favorite episode of the show. Okay, so these noodles been soaking in hot water. You want to strain them before you use them, but you also usually would need to boil them, okay, before you use. So they're softened, but they're not quite soft enough for you to eat directly, okay. And usually I would boil them in a separate pot of water as well, not directly in the soup, mainly because I don't want the soup flavor to be compromised, you know. I know usually when you make pasta and all that, they always say, oh, use the water from the pasta to make the sauce with, and to me that's, I don't like that, because to me, I don't like the cross-contamination of flavors, you know, the cross-pollination of flavors. I'm going to throw more greens in here. I generally like, yeah, everything boiled in a separate saucepan. What kind of noodles? These are called, basically they're dried rice noodles, okay? So they're rice, what we call rice sticks or vermicelli variously. But this is what they look like. You can see it. Okay, if you can imagine it dry and like in cakes. Okay, so what I did first up, if you're just joining me now, what I did first up was that I took them straight out of a packet like this and deep fried some, and that gave me these, okay, because they're made from rice, right? They puff up like rice bubbles. So if you can imagine rice bubbles, crispy rice bubbles, these are crispy rice noodles. So that's what I had there with my first dish. And the next lot, I soaked some in hot water for a few minutes, strained them, and then I pan fried them into cakes. And that gave me my second dish, which I made a sauce over and poured over it. So you're going to get a pseudo chewy, slightly crunchy texture of a noodle. And the third lot is just basically in a broth, okay? So this is like a very kind of like the Chinese, because this like all these are Chinese influenced dishes. So Malaysia, because it's a multicultural country, the food is essentially like a fusion of all these different flavors from all these different countries. The immigrants are made up of like people from China, like my ancestors, and people from India, and people from all parts of the world, Indonesia and all that, right? So the flavors are basically like a mixture of all these, but you know, then you get specific dishes that are heavily Chinese or heavily Indian and all that. Okay, so this tastes really gingery, and if you want, you can add a dash of fish sauce over it. I don't generally like to put chicken, I don't generally like to use soya sauce in a clear broth, because the brands of soya sauce we get here in Australia seem to be quite strong flavored, okay? And they just completely change the flavor profile of the dish when you use, when you put a couple of dashes in it. I don't know if you noticed that, like, this whole soup just tastes soya saucy. So again, like, you know, if you've got like poached chicken or poached fish or poached seafood like prawns or whatever, they would work well in this dish. And like I say, if you want a richer soup instead of like a clear broth like this, you can add like a bit of evaporated milk in it as well. So that's that. And the final way to make this dish, I've already done three ways to do it, is to, I mean, there are still other ways. You can actually stir fry this dish, and I have as well, but it's just a little bit involved when you stir fry it. But let me grab some spring onion. Hang on. Okay, or spring onion or green onion, okay, so usually you would just kind of like sprinkle some of these over your noodles. And the other thing you might, usually like a noodle in a broth like this, we would serve with like some sliced chili in a saucer of soy sauce or fish sauce or something like that. And you can sprinkle this with some fried onion as well. So remember, if you've been following my broadcasts, I made a bunch of this fried onion, crispy fried onion a few weeks ago. And I just store them in these tubs like this, right? And use them to serve up my meal with. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And you can do that with all your other dishes as well. That first dish has just kind of died on me, but I'm just going to add more of the crispy noodles on top so you can see it. Okay. So it's basically very, very similar, like base of ingredients, and I really did this because I wanted to, first of all, use up all that chicken stock from my Hainanese chicken rice broadcast a couple of days ago, and also I needed to, I wanted to show you guys what to do with a pack of noodles like this, okay? Who would powder a chicken? Yeah. Is there any questions? I hunt my own food, butcher and preserve my own food, also grow my own vegetables. Oh, that's pretty cool, right? My new thing is lamb shoulder. If you follow me on Instagram, oopsies. My new thing is lamb shoulder. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will see I posted a picture of this slow roasted lamb shoulder a couple of days ago. So anyone can make that for me. I'll be over in a jiffy. So there you go. Don't forget to check out Wyatt's, like I said, Wyatt's story. And if you do help him and you share it on social media, do hashtag help Wyatt. Okay, I'm trying to kind of like create a hashtag and sustain it for a little bit. Like I said, just very briefly, Wyatt has the same condition that Noah was born with, which has a mortality rate of 90%, right? Noah, I was told, in fact, in Noah's case, it wasn't survivable at all. That's why I felt a connection with his parents. His parents are only young. I'm like old. But I know what it's like to have a sick kid and the parents, because in Wyatt's case, the doctors haven't quite determined the underlying cause of his condition. They thought it was a congenital heart failure. It's not, it looks like liver failure now, but they haven't decided yet. But in any case, they have to travel every month. They live in small town USA. Okay, so he's one of you guys. He lives in small town USA. Noah, don't touch. Don't touch. He lives in small town USA, so they don't have access to a lot of services. They don't have like a big church that can help them out and whatever. So I thought, look, I've got some cookbooks that I published. I've got a cookbook I published a couple of years ago. I've still got some copies in my garage. Quite a few copies actually. They cost me an arm and a leg. That's the beauty of self-publishing, right? They cost me an arm and a leg, but I'm donating them, right, to the family. So any sales of the cookbook between now and next weekend, when they have to go to, they have to make their trip, they're trying to cover the cost of the gas and also the cost of accommodation and food, that sort of stuff, to get him the medical attention he needs. Next weekend happens to be Mother's Day weekend here in Australia. I know it's different in different parts of the world, so that's why I kind of thought, look, let's do this. If you're an Australian, you know, if you're an Australian with a mom who could use a cookbook, this is a good time to pick it up. The only, the only amount I'll hold on to is the cost of the postage. Okay, so I'm donating the book basically. Everything else will go to Wyatt and his parents. So I hope you can help them out. I really, really appreciate it. Twitch people, show your stuff. Stay very cool, which is cool. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Really, really appreciate it. 3 dishes that I made up. Okay, I forgot to mention the fourth one. The fourth one, the one. Yeah, he actually dropped the third one. You can see the broken bowl in the bottom, but it's not sharp, so I'm not too worried about him cutting himself. The fourth one is basically these noodles with softened as well. So you want to basically soften them like this in the water, and then just blanch them in boiling water, dish them out, and then serve it with an oyster / soy based sauce. Okay, I have a recipe for that. I did the broadcast a few weeks ago. It's called wantan noodles or something like that. Okay, I do have a recipe for that, which you can look up on my website. So if you're after any of these recipes, they do show up on my website. There goes another top. This is disastrous. Oh, thanks for following me, Josh for Gaming. So this is disastrous, right? Because Noah's, I have to really, I'm going to have to reschedule my Wednesday broadcast because he's just everywhere. Yeah, so if you want the recipes, go to my website, which is jackiem.com.au, right? They do show up within a couple of days of my broadcast, okay, because I need to kind of like finesse them and have the photos and all that to go with them as well. But you sign up to my newsletter, you get a digest every week of all my recipes from my website. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out Wyatt's URL, which is bit.ly/, all lowercase, help Wyatt. Okay, thanks again. I'll see you this Friday. So Friday will be a more it'll be a saner time slot, okay, for all of us, because Noah won't be here, and also it'll be like during the day here in Australia as well, as opposed to the evening, which means it'll be nighttime over on the East Coast in the USA. Thanks again. I'll catch you later. Ciao.